Bene, possiamo cominciare. Good afternoon, everyone, including those who have chosen to join us today in the Greenhouse and those who are streaming in live from the FinTech District event location. And welcome everyone to the 2018 Deloitte FinTech event. 3 years ago, we began holding the Deloitte FinTech event here in Italy with much enthusiasm and passion. Our first 2 editions were extremely successful and productive. This year, we are proud to announce that for the first time ever, our event is coinciding directly with the FinTech Stage Festival, which means that our event is part of this festival. We are extremely excited to bring the event to the next level together with all of you today. Marco Scappa, the FinTech District Managing Director, will speak about FinTech District, an ecosystem partner, and the FinTech Week very shortly. This 3rd edition is dedicated to what is widely known as open banking. Here, we will look at issues such as its impact on the financial industry's competitive landscape, the business models of the financial institutions, and, most importantly, on the clients of the financial institutions themselves. The financial industry is now affected by an unprecedented wave of disruptive factors, whose common enabler is the significant potential of current technologies. In our first 2 editions, we discussed a few of these disruptive factors, such as blockchain and artificial intelligence. Open banking, however, has to do with what has always been at the core of the banking business since its dawn. The very reason why financial institutions exist, and its role as a fundamental player in intermediating the flow of digital payments in our economies. January the 13th, 2018 was a key date for the financial services industry. After years of debate, the European Union Payment Services Directive, or PSD2, has become regulation. This is a milestone date, as I have just said. Because of the new rules, among others, it not only redefines the world of payments, but allows other non-financial players to be part of this world and play a pivotal role disrupting the payment system as we see it today. This is a significant evolution, or better, it is a significant revolution. On the one hand, this revolution is exciting and brings many new possibilities to the open banking system. On the other, both incumbents and startups need to be prepared. Both retail and corporate customers will have plenty of opportunities to refer to non-financial institutions too, and not only for payments, but for other types of services, such as loans and investments. What are the perspectives of the newcomers, specifically the FinTech firms? What are the threats and the opportunities for the financial institutions who we consider the incumbents? Can they work together? How can they collectively utilize their strengths? How can the traditional financial institutions exploit the IT legacy-less FinTech firms and their ability to more effectively leverage customers' data and improve customer experience? As a matter of fact, and this is another major disruptive change, customers will be the owners of the data that the providers have in custody. From now on, they have the power to use their data as they like. In a digital world, this data is the new gold. The battle among service providers to obtain the right to use this data will be a tough one. Today, we have an amazing roster of speakers, both Italian and foreign, joining us. They will certainly tell us what they think about the issues I have just raised. Before moving on to a discussion, I will ask Marco Scappa to introduce himself, and I would like to encourage the live panel and those in streaming to ask questions using the Slido systems. Marco?
Thank you, Riccardo, for the
Cazzo, lo capisco.
sustain dialogue. I think that this setting, this virtual environment, is actually a vivid metaphor of what the future holds us. In the sense that it is an example of tech-enabled collaboration between fintech players, sustained, enabled by and activated, let's say, by consultancy firms. Let me at last thank you also Fintech Stage, whose passionate effort brought us here in Italy this 4 days festival, which we proudly joined as ecosystem partner. The term ecosystem partner actually is represent very well what we do at the FinTech District, because it covers the 2 purposes of the FinTech District. In a broader sense, FinTech District is an ecosystem itself, an open ecosystem of FinTech stakeholders get together in order to blend, culturally speaking, of course, and to collaborate in order to shape the future of the financial services. FinTech District, in a narrow sense, is also a partner. It partners with the ecosystem. How it does that? It does that by creating a community feeling around the ecosystem. A community feelings that spur collaboration, that sustain collaboration, and ultimately open innovation. The terms open and in general openness is a key word for the FinTech District. FinTech District is a community open to any FinTech stakeholder, not only new FinTech players such as startups or scale-ups, to which the FinTech terms is most commonly referred to, but also traditional players. Being in the FinTech industry is not a matter of age. It's like old age. You feel old only if you are old only if you feel old. Being a FinTech players, it it is related on how you use technology, on how you leverage technology for creating innovation in the financial services. Well, down this path of collaboration, open banking is a key step. Is a key step because in open banking, it stands the core of collaboration itself. For financial institutions, for traditional players, collaboration takes the form of crowdsourcing technology and product and services, while enabling traditional players to focus on their first reason for existing, which is risk management and an effective resource allocation. For fintech startups or scale-ups, is about business development. And ultimately, for the market, is about having, for Main Street, let's say, not Wall Street, is about new opportunities, is about providing new services, is about consuming new services, is about financial inclusion. Therefore, we are very excited about being here with you today and talking about open banking. I don't want to take any more time away to the discussion, so Riccardo, back to you, and to all of us, let's have a very interesting and collaborative discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. And now I am pleased to introduce to you our keynote speaker for this event. With over 20 years of experience working in the payments, mobile and banking space across North America and Europe, he currently is the managing partner of North America for 11FS, a challenger consultancy firm that builds and launches next-generation digital propositions for some of the biggest banks in the world. Please welcome together with me Sam Mon.
For those of you in the video conference, I am the speaker. Matteo asked me to come, it's his fault. I brushed up on my Italian before I came here. Obviously, I'm not from Italy, I'm from Florida, just like Italy. So, ciao. That's it. Okay, so we're gonna move past that. So if you're getting translations, I apologize. I'll try not to talk too fast. I've worked for banks. I worked for Northern Trust for 10 years in wealth management. I worked for TSYS on the card processing side. I worked for NTT Data, head up their fintech and digital practice. So I have been in the seats you're in, and yes, I do own suits. I just don't wear them very much. So I work for what we call a challenger consultancy company, and I will talk about that on a break because I don't want to sell, right, Matteo? No selling. So a couple of things. I love Italy. I love Italy. I also love soccer. So I'm a big Arsenal fan. The reason I have Juventus and not AC Milan is because I want to get their coach to come to my team now that Wenger has retired. I love the architecture. I'm a history major. I went back to school to be a history major. So I absolutely love the Italian architecture. The weather is gorgeous. Oh my God, your food. I love you people too much. And oh my God, I love you people. I don't know what else to say. Sophia Loren, well done. So all that said, the one thing I love even more, I love cinema. I love Italian cinema. I'm a child of the 70s, is when I grew up. So spaghetti westerns, we call them in the US. Fistful of Dollars, a few dollars more. Movies like that, I love. This is one of my favorites, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Y'all remember the theme song? That's the best I can do. I love that theme song. Matteo, next time I do a keynote, I want that to be my song as I walk on. How many have seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Oh my God, people, come on. There you go. All right, this will help me, by the way. How many of you work for a bank? How many are an executive at a bank? All right, I'm going to terrify you a little bit. I apologize. How many are consultants? Wonderful. Okay. It'll give me a good feel for the room. So what I want to do is take this theme. I love this movie. One of my favorites. And I want to take that theme of good, bad, and the ugly. And let's apply it to open banking. What have we seen so far? What's good about it? What's bad about it? And what is just plain ugly? Because there is some ugly. So we'll start with the good. Which is rather funny that the good is Clint Eastwood. Anybody remember what his name was in the movie? I'll give you €5. Anybody? Blondie. How do you not know that?
Good.
Blondie. I don't know what's that in Italian. No idea. So Clint played the good guy. So what has been great about open banking? The interesting part about it is it started awful. Remember this? Good days, right? 2008, as we watched our industry implode on itself. But there were some excellent things that came out of this, if you'll remember. In the US, we had a good time. Really good time. Occupy Wall Street went on. This complete irritation with how normal banking, with normal financial services went about its business, which led to disruption. Thank God, because we did need it. And with the introduction of this wonderful device, changed everything. I have 4 kids, 3 of them daughters and a son. That is the saddest thing to ever happen, and we all know it. I get to look out at you. Trust me, within 10 minutes, y'all are going to be on your phones, checking something. But we're all this. We have become that, which is slightly sad. Essentially, we're all cyborgs at this point. Is there anyone in this room who does not have a phone within a hand's breadth right now? Raise your hand. Single person. No one. We're all digital. Does our banking products, does our financial products align with this? Do you really think we're there? Me either. We're getting there. So PSD2. Payment Service Directive 2. Does anybody remember when the first payment directive came out? What year? Ooh, good question. 2007. Good job, Sophie. Good for a Fidor. Yes, 2007. So this is the second directive. So this has helped initiate this change, obviously, from that wonderful collapse that we had in 2008, and we look at technology and the way it's impacted our lives. So essentially, we have PSD2, which is saying, open up the data. Which I think is hilarious, because then on top of it, you have GDPR, which is saying, and you damn well better take care of that data. So we want you to open up the gates, but man, you better protect it. It's a bit of an oxymoron between the two and how you handle it. And consultancy companies like mine and Deloitte and others are making a fortune off of this. Thank you very much, EU. In the US, we're watching this. Yeah, there's a guy in the back that went, hell yes, we are. So it's fascinating. In the US, we're watching this to say, how will it impact us? What can we learn from this in this wave? I've read about Australia, I've read about Singapore, other markets that are looking at this to see the impact. In the UK and in Europe, companies are obviously excited. Delle, do you know what company this is? TransferWise. Yep, TransferWise. Which, in their marketing over and over again, said banks are going to go away. Which is hilarious, because now they partner with banks. That's how it works, right? So if we're going to have open banking, if we're going to see all that, and those regulations come through, so there's opportunity there, right, for these challengers to come up. So now, in the UK, we have this concept of open banking, which is consumers really need to be able to manage their own data. We had talked about it. Need to have access to other products, maybe like say other services, to be able to get to their data and see it in one place. That was the dream my whole career, right? Was to have an aggregated view of all your accounts. Simple, very clean view of that. So in the UK, they say they're open for business. So we have that model that's been put in place. And if you look, it's getting crowded and more crowded and more crowded. You're on here somewhere. Revolut, I think is now valued at 1.2 billion. 1.3, thank you, Alessandro, of course. 1.3 billion. Companies like Monzo, like Starling, like Fidor, Loot. Here's what's fascinating about these companies too, by the way. It's something I find rather ridiculous. This company, Loot, has anybody ever heard of Loot in the UK? Yeah, all the speakers. Anybody else? Here's what's funny about Loot. Loot's CEO, I think, just started shaving. He is maybe 22? Maybe? Am I stretching that? Yeah, still in university. Should make you a little nervous, by the way. Fantastic product. All of these taking advantage of what's coming through PSD2, through GDPR, and through open banking. So as a customer, as a consumer, this is fantastic. I have multiple options for how I handle my financial life. And all of these, pretty darn good companies, by the way. I'm going to isolate one of them. That's not going to be Fidor or Sophie, I'm sorry. Right? What are you going to do? Starling. Starling Bank. Founded by Ann Bowden. And a couple others, maybe a guy who helped co-found my company, Jason Bates, by the way. But Starling's interesting because Ann worked for RBS, Allied Irish Bank, in a COO role. She basically sat where you sat. And now she's leading one of these challenger banks. And it's fascinating what they're doing because one of the things that they've implemented when you get back to this concept of open banking is this concept of a marketplace. Banking as a marketplace. That should be a buzzword that you embrace and know. So this concept that not only can I go through a pure play digital app and play checkers, that was pretty cool. I don't know how I did that. But how I can go through and have my financial services with this pure play digital bank in the UK, but also integrate with other financial services. So in their marketplace, you go out there and take a look at it. For example, they partnered with Wealthsimple. So we're talking APIs, you'll hear about APIs for the rest of the day. But essentially, I'm able to go in, log in through Starling, and I can also access my data at Wealthsimple. The one that I like even more, they've also just announced a partnership a couple weeks ago with Wealthify. So Wealthify is another pure play financial app in the UK that's focused on really anybody. So I think you can open an account with a pound, if I remember right. But what's interesting about Wealthify, it's a two-way street. In other words, you can go to this marketplace through all your credentials that you did here and open up an account through Wealthify and see all your data and manage it. But you can also go the other way. So it's just not a simple website landing page where then you click out and go to another app. This is 100% integrated with this, going both ways. As a consumer, fantastic product, well done. So the good of this, multiple options for me as a consumer. So that's great, but it's just not these startups. In the US, Goldman Sachs, I would say, is one of the most successful startups in the US. Goldman. I still think that's hilarious. But Marcus, their loan product that they have is unbelievable. Incredibly successful, well over $1 billion floating on that thing. And they will flat out tell you, we consider ourselves a tech company now. They are acquiring talent. I used to say it was impossible for the banks, and they were my clients. I had managed some of the largest banks in the world from a consultancy standpoint back in my other jobs. And I can flat out tell you that I used to say they couldn't compete. That the tech companies, Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley, go to London, take your pick, they were going to eat your lunch. Goldman's getting some great talent. HSBC's doing all right. Where's Diana? Hi, Diana. Right? Working for HSBC now. It's rather interesting some of the talent shifts we are seeing, but I won't say that's every bank. But if Goldman embraces it, you should too. So that's the good. So what's the bad? Actually, my favorite character in the movie. This is for me. It just makes me feel good. Interesting survey in the UK. So open banking went live January 18th, 2018. I think I got the date right. Is when this went live. So in other words, everybody needed to be ready. The biggest banks had to be able to open up, be able to get basic consumer data, transactional level data out there for these startups. A survey went out, and they had years to get ready for this, by the way. Survey went out of UK consumers, 92% say they couldn't tell you what open banking is. Not a clue. And this is very important for all of us. We are we're in the weeds, every single one of us. We're buried in this. Terms like APIs and open banking and PSD2 and GDPR. The people outside walking on the streets don't give a flip. Sorry. They really don't. They're not terms that they care about. This is a great example. Again, 92% of the consumers in the UK have no clue what that means. None. If I could go back, I would. And let's just sit on this slide for one more second because it makes me feel good. We need to do a better job. Part of what we do is education. Part of what we do is marketing. As much as you probably don't like those terms, educating consumers and not talking like a bank, by the way. We're horrible at that. Take a look at any ATM receipt that comes out. And the terminology, that's just not a simple ATM receipt that most people have no clue what you're talking about. We can do so much better. So one of the things I find interesting is, again, this open banking concept, PSD2, it's not new, it's been out there for years. The banks have had ample time to get ready. In the UK, again, this targeted about 9 banks, the 9 biggest banks in the UK. 6 out of the 9 asked for an extension. I don't know what percentage it is. It's a high percentage. Way too many asked for an extension of something they knew was coming. And some of us in this room probably worked on it. And in all honesty, isn't that damn hard, by the way. 6 of 9 said they weren't ready. And oh my God, did they ever go on a marketing blitz. So remember I talked about educating and marketing around the concept of open banking? It seems like more effort went on to say what's wrong with it and the dangers of it than actually working to educate consumers on something that is going to come. It's not going to go away. I found article after article after article ripping this concept. And I can tell you that the majority of these tied back, more than likely, to someone in a suit that might look like you. So GDPR, I love this. Risk officers, anybody in the room? Risk? Okay, when you leave here, go hug your risk officer. Go hug your audit people. This is interesting. This account, back on March 3rd, thanks to GDPR, we can take a look at who PayPal shared data with. So they're looking at specific data points. So from a basic customer data, so Sam Mall's account on PayPal, if I just look at marketing and public relations, that's every single provider they're providing my data to. This explains why when I go on Facebook and I look at a T-Rex t-shirt like this, that for the rest of my life, I get offers of T-Rex t-shirts every time I log in. When I go to look for a vacation, it pops up on every other damn site. Let's tie it to us. This is PayPal data for financial products. There you go. You can say, that's not too bad. I can deal with that. Oh shit. I believe there's the terminology there. That's credit reference and fraud agencies. Hello. Anybody actually see what the final tally is for the Equifax hack in the US? There's a tweet out there today, Alessandro. After this, I will share that. You will not believe the breach that occurred. And by the way, Equifax is a credit agency in the US. If you're not familiar with them, we have the big 3. Experian also being one of them. Equifax went through a horrific hack, which by the way was so easy to have stopped. A simple code patch for Apache struts is just stupid. The sheer volume of people impacted in the US, basically every US citizen for the most part was impacted. And it's amazing we don't hear more about that. So the bad, you're looking at it. But, however, can I say, this is never going back in the box. This is the new world. It's not an excuse, it's just the reality of where we live. So if that was bad, what's ugly? Because that was pretty bad, by the way. So what's ugly for this? I love this analogy. The Gordian knot, Alexander the Great. If you're familiar with this legend, essentially in modern day Turkey, the oracles in the city said the next guy that walks into the village is going to be king. They had no king. This peasant came in with his ox on a cart, did an elaborate knot and tied it up. That was King Midas's dad, by the way. Midas touched everything. Everything goes to gold. That was the Gordian knot. And for centuries, nobody could untie this thing. Because the legend was, if you could untie that Gordian knot, if you could get the two ends of that knot to touch the string, the strand, the rope, you would be emperor of the world. You'd go and conquer Asia. There was story after story of this. And no one was able to do this. Then Alexander the Great, at a very young age, shows up, sees this thing, studies it. There's two legends. One is that he pulled out his sword and hacked through it. Just cut it right in half. The brute strength approach to this. The other, and the one that I like more, is he basically went to the end and he took the linchpin out and just slid the knot off. I love that analogy. If there was ever an analogy for legacy banking, it's the Gordian knot. And here's why. Most banks that I know aren't operating off of one legacy system. Especially in the US, because they've acquired so many damn other banks. They have multiple systems. The customer data is strewn out all over the place, and they have to have it for every single relationship they have for that customer. So whether it be their credit cards, their mortgage, their current account, their wealth, it's all on distinct and separate systems. Trying to get a clear view of the customer is impossible. It's like trying to undo that Gordian knot. And I can tell you that taking a sword and cutting it in half, good luck with that. Ask TSB how that went. If you're not familiar with what's happening in the UK right now, just did a massive, good on TSB for doing a massive migration to a new system. But I think half the customers are locked out. So maybe still half completely locked out of the system. A ton of risk that goes with that. I love the idea that open banking provides to do this in isolated steps. So we got a problem. Your core systems are older than hell. On average, those core systems are over 30 years old. More like 40. Those wonderful mainframe green screens that we all know and love. The architecture it sits on, 20 years old. The hardware that it sits on, the boxes, the data centers, 10 years old, a decade old. In the digital age, 10 years, that's like dog years. That's like 70 years, and you all know it. How fast this stuff moves. Let me give you an analogy. What year did the band form? Rolling Stones. Somebody always gets this right. What year? 1962. Google me. Make sure I'm right. You're going to, aren't you? Be smart. All right. I believe it's 1962, the original band. This band got together in 62. Do you know what the #1 touring band in the world was last year? Oh my God, yes. The Stones. #1. They beat out U2 by like $16 million. The business model still works. They're making money. Average age 73 years old. I personally am not buying tickets for the 2025 concert tour. It's not going to happen. There's just only so much Botox, teeth whitening. Keith Richards has been dead for freaking years and doesn't know it. If there's ever an analogy for legacy banking, you're looking at it. The excuse is we're making money. I get it. You are. Bank profits are fantastic. So is theirs. It's not a winning argument. So we have this situation. This is why we show a lot of the Left Manifest. We call it the banking battlefields. Essentially what you have is your legacy banks loaded up with customers. Just a ton of customers sitting out here that they've had for years across all their different platforms, across all their different systems. Then we have these new brand challengers coming up. Say you're, in UK, say you're Virgin, your Metro, and others, right? And then we have these startups and digital challengers, those ones I showed you, the Monzos, the Fiodors, Tandem, Revolut. And what's interesting about them, if you look at this, we have intelligent digital services across the bottom, tech. Great tech. Number of customers. So you have great tech, not a ton of customers on it. Still new, and I get it. Ton of customers. Let's be honest about the technology. And then the elephant in the room. Who's sitting way over there? Hello, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba. Good God, Amazon, take your pick. Fantastic tech, more customers than you got, and what happens if they ever want to get in the game? Anybody see the news that was announced yesterday? Thanks to PSD2 and GDPR, what the airlines are doing? Oh, payments. They're going to skip the banks. They're coming up with their own payment system because they can. The retailers can play that game. That should terrify some of you. Because revenue models we're seeing shrinking down with this. So the question is, how do you get over here? How do you move when you have this massive old system and get across page? We're going to be talking about that all day. I think we got a panel at the end of the day to talk about this. Here's what I would say. This has been our universe forever and a day. And I've been part of this past 30, 40 years. Yes, Deloitte, you're on there. Love you, Deloitte. You've been a sponsor of our podcast today. Love you. So shout out to you. But, and I would throw 11FS in that mix too. Honestly, it's been the same ecosystem forever and a day. You want to do something digital, you put out an RFP. You go to Accenture, Deloitte, McKinsey, the typical players. And then they're going to partner with a Wipro. They're going to partner out in India, bring resources on to build this thing. You're going to do conference calls like I have with literally 300 freaking people on a conference call to talk, where 2 people are doing all the talking. And no one looks at that as a waste of money. Which you should, because it's an enormous waste of funding and money. And by the way, those challenger banks I was telling you about, Monzo launched with less than 20 people. 20 across the entire spectrum. I'm sure you've heard the analogies of Kodak and Instagram when you talked about resources on the ground and how many people. It's the same here. This model is starting to creep a little bit. And again, for the rest of the day, we'll talk about how do you address it? What do you do? How do you get there? But I can tell you it needs change. It needs to be tilted on its axis a little bit. The way we've been doing business doesn't keep up with the rate of change and speed of change of what digital's introduced. When you're giving a talk, never talk about someone else's talk. That's like a golden rule. Never bring somebody else's deck or speech. I will tweet this. This is a great presentation by Frank. I don't know Frank. Never met Frank. Sure, he's a nice guy. I don't know who QED Investors is, but damn, this deck was good. What he talks about, and again, I'll send the link out. He calls it oh God, that guy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm American. All right, but a revolution in banking. If you remember with Copernicus, prior to Copernicus, everything revolved around the Earth, right? The sun, the planets. Everybody accepted it, that that's how it works, and then he proved that it didn't work that way. And in banking, we're seeing that shift, right? Instead of your products, it's now the customer. That's what open banking does. It moves to them and what they do. It's not building into your product. Fantastic talk that he gives and fantastic deck. But one of the things he says at the end, I love this statement. How do you leap forward? What do you do? He offers 2 steps. The first one, be willing to offer your best products and capabilities to, keyword, other institutions. Remember that marketplace? You got to open up the walls, people. I know you don't like it. You're going to have to. Be willing. What is your best? What do you do better than anybody else? What products are yours that you just excel at? Great. Keep doing that. But be willing to offer it to other institutions. And then 2, replace your non-core products and capabilities with best in class. Remember that Starling marketplace? Good idea. Because I can tell you right now, your customers, they're going to leave you anyways, potentially, to go to those. It's a pain in the butt to leave banks. I get it. But if any of you have actually gone out and looked at your Facebook data to see if it was, in the US, we had this little election that got hijacked by some people from another country. And it's fascinating when we look at what happened with the analytics company that got there, and you look at how much your data is out there, and you think it was just through Facebook. I signed up for Wi-Fi at the airport here in Milan through Facebook. There's some Italian hacker that's just loving my ass right now. I guarantee you. Remember what we showed on the GDPR? It's the ease of use to do that. You have to be willing to do this. This entire deck, top to bottom, fantastic. So the question you need to ask yourself for the rest of this day as you listen to every other panel, seriously, as a bank, as a product lead at Deloitte, whatever your role is, when you think about open banking, when you think about your customers, you think about the products you have, where do you fit on the spectrum? Where are you? Good, bad, ugly? Biggest thing, be honest to yourself. And listen to my podcast. It's freaking great, by the way. And y'all sponsor it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Sam. I was thinking if I will be the good, the bad, or the ugly. I will discover at the finish of our meeting today. Okay, thank you, Sam. I'm Paolo Gianturco, a partner of Deloitte. I'm head of FSI and FinTech. As Riccardo Motta told at the beginning of this event, we made a decision to to support the first FinTech week in Italy. We are proud about this. I think that it's an important event in Italy because I think that we are creating the history. And to do this, we asked the help of a FinTech stage. For that reason, Matteo Rizzi will co-host with me the first roundtable. I'm going to moderate the first roundtable, and Matteo will get questions from the audience here in Greenhouse and also in FinTech District. And he will jump in the discussion to have all the way to get information and insight from our panel. We started 3 years ago with blockchain, last year with artificial intelligence, and today we think that open banking is really important. It's the pillar where incumbents and new players with startups can build, can connect the traditional financial services together with FinTech, blockchain, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. For that reason, we decided together with the FinTech stage to focus today on the open banking. So I think that we will start the roundtable. The roundtable will be focused on the incumbent's view, how the incumbent will manage the open platforms. As Sam told today, there are a lot of issues. Who will be the good, who will be the bad and the ugly? And so we want to ask the incumbents how they want to manage and to open the systems to new players and also to other institutions. So I ask Massimo Milanta, please come here to the stage, on the stage. Massimo Milanta, ciao Massimo. Massimo Milanta is a Chief Information Officer, Group Chief Information Officer in Credit and Security, if you remember. I had the pleasure to work with Massimo in complex projects, transformation projects. And I'd like to start with a consideration. If I think about my experience, Massimo, I think that I experienced 2 challenges. The first was that I feel myself trapped between the incumbent culture and the startup culture. And I think that I was in a better position coaching Juventus or Naples in the current championship in Italy. Because you feel frustrated, because we want to facilitate the discussion, and maybe also you and your colleagues, but the culture is very different. So the first challenge is how we can really open the discussion between incumbent and startups. The second challenge I experience is the fact that I don't think that changing the technology is the unique step we need to do. I think the first is to change culture and processes. If we don't change culture, processes, the business model, I think that changing the technology will not bring any successful result. So my first question is, have you experienced the same challenge in your structure, and how your company, your institution is managing the collaboration between incumbent and startups? It's an easy question, no?
Yes, it's easy. Do you hear me? Yes. Okay. First of all, I think the first element to put into focus is that banks, including us, first has to recognize the importance of fintech as an help to change, to enter into this open banking world, rather than as a threat, as it initially were perceived. Because if you do not have any reason to establish a bridge, you will never build a bridge, considering that for sure this is not an easy stuff to do. I think this is an awareness that now is present, because we, not only because of PSD2, for the evolution of the market, we are discovering that the transformation is needed, that we are moving towards an internet-connected world where we cannot own end-to-end all the services, as we did in the past, but we need to, as the colleague before explained it very clearly, to focus where we are best, and to be able to use services from third party and to be used by others. I think sometimes this model is a fractal model, a model where everybody is an aggregator of somebody else. Given that, I think, I'm not saying I have all the answers, it's clearly a difficult task to combine the two cultures. I think the first element is to invest in a team, in a set of people who act as a bridge. So we cannot do this in our spare time. We cannot put our business focus directly on the balance sheet on the end of the month to discuss this topic. In general terms, we need to build some kind of bridge. What we did two things primarily. One, more internal, by building competencies on research and development, more open to the technologies used by startups, okay, but also aware, through a lot of interconnection we have, of the complexity of our, let's say, existing environment. Let's see, somebody call also legacy environment, but we are more than that, not only a legacy. And on the other side, we also started an investment fund, primarily for industrial policies, not for an internal financial return, but to have a tool to invest, understand, and connect with this. And this team now are becoming a kind of internal evangelist building this bridge, because they are somewhat being in touch with the two culture, the tool we are using for this. In fact, we are now building partnerships that are not even linked to investment.
So we can say that UniCredit is open to collaborate and to integrate other products, services. And the second, as Sam told in his speech, that you are investing seriously on education, internally, and maybe also with funds supporting
yes, yes, I think the education is one of the major advantages of this this connection, because a startup is a strange animal. It's not just technology. It's technology with a business idea, with a hopefully a business case. And this is something that is bridging a lot of context, because our technical people, sometimes we have our very advanced technical people which speaks a language which is understandable by nobody but them, okay? But it's not that. The fact here is that we see some innovative business model, especially around things like user experience, around things that are not only product driven but are mostly interaction driven, that incorporates technology to improve the business, let's say the customer experience, at the end the satisfaction, and using the product as a if you want, byproduct.
So this is interesting, because if I understood, it's not just an innovational product, but it's a innovational processes, you are saying. It's not just a product, this is important.
I think it's the core of a banking. When we say we, let's say, aggregate things, at the end we repackage basic services in a different way. I'm not saying that there is no product innovation, I'm not saying that, but the advantage is that you can show and aggregate various aspects that today are in a silos mode, okay, into a new view for the value for the customer. And this is a different, let's say, is at the end a different customer experience you are building. Then, clearly, there are our internal processes. You cannot sell a mortgage online and then spend two months to grant the product in the back office. So that's clearly a lot of implication also on our internal process, both IT and not IT. But I would say we start from the changing of the experience of the customer.
Yeah, and I think that I know that it's based with a strong data governance structure too, isn't it?
Data
Because
governance,
without data governance, you cannot connect silos or avoid silos.
Yes, this is, okay, data governance exists for many reasons, including some of GDPRs. And I believe that there are two byproducts of this digitalization that sometimes we forget, focusing on the innovation. One is with the wrong data, you take wrong decision. In the past, the decision was much less based on data, so there was a kind of compensating element. We applied some, I remember, early example of artificial intelligence analytics to data were incomplete and we came to wrong decision. Hopefully, fortunately, were not decisions, were ideas then we discovered. And the second is quality of service. Let's come back to the characteristic of our architecture, so the fact that now you can do whatever you want, but if you don't provide an excellent quality of service, including customer experience, not only a good application, is an application that runs always, which is fast, which is working.
Good.
And this is require much more investment than somebody could pay.
Maybe there is a question from the audience, Matteo?
Yes, so there are actually a couple. I have to admit that there is an acronym that I don't know. So, Mr. Vellante, how are you addressing the cultural gap between UCGs, individual universities or employment, and startups? So that's one question.
UCGs may be an incredible. Sorry, the
gap, the cultural gap between basically you as an institution and a startup, this question. And related to that, how do you think Italy compares with the international institution? There is something behind, parteciperà, retro, that's how we talk about this.
Okay. About the first question, I think I already answered in the sense that we try to build this bridge by setting a specific team and by recognizing ourselves that we need to create this gap. So we are, to be clear, evaluating the utilization of some startups product service inside our solutions for our customers. Okay, so we are using that.
Apologies for for the ignorance in not recognizing that you being there and UCG was like related. Sorry, it must be.
No, it's don't worry. I hate acronyms. I try always to avoid because I'm old and forget them.
So you are the ugly today.
Don't worry. With me, you
And
can
the
go
stupid
far.
today. Yeah.
Me too with you.
About Italy, okay, clearly there is a gap.
Sorry, on Italy also, because you have two other important hubs like Munich and Austria, so I think that you can give both.
Yeah, we have seen clearly, I am not saying something new if I say that clearly innovation in this area started in the Anglo-Saxon world, and the biggest hub in the Euro area is probably Berlin, where we have established a lot of links, and our, let's say, infrastructure, let's say our relation with startups is global, so it's a group level, it's not, even if we have a team here in Milan. I think there is a trend, a positive trend in Italy. I see an increasing interest for the market and increasing number of offering coming out. So I'm positive that we will follow this trend, and also because the world is becoming global, is already global in this, so I don't think that there is much space for local identities for a long period. Clearly, we started with a delay because of many reasons that you probably can explain better than me, but in general I'm positive. I've seen also this in the participation to some of our hackathons that we did in the past.
Okay, thank you. So I think that now we can invite the other guest. Please, Sophie Guimard, Managing Director, Europe Fido Group, please, if you can come here. Diana Bibbs, Head of Digital Proposition, UK and Europe Retail Banking and Wealth Management, CBC, please. And Paolo Zaccardi, CEO of Nelle Open FinTech Platform. Thank you for coming here. So, I start with Sophie. Given your international experience in digital banking and your open view, also in other hubs like New York, Paris, London, how do you see Milano, Italy? What is the main challenge that a country, maybe a country like Italy, for what you know, should face and manage to accelerate and to face the disruption we are living in FinTech?
Well, I think what the UK has been doing very well is really the openness of the regulator, and it has been a big catalyst to actually like the development of FinTech. So I would say that would be one of the points, is that to become a very attractive FinTech hub, you need to actually have a regulator that is not only understanding, but is actually marketing itself to be by the side of the startups, of the innovation and FinTech, to actually attract people. It can be through regulation, it can be through advice, it can be through capital. So that would be it. The second thing is about the resource, of course, and talents. I mean, in the UK, post the crisis, the financial crisis, there was quite a lot of people that either ended up without a job or needed actually or actually wanted to move out of the banking industry. So it has been a very good way to actually help innovation. It was really the perfect time. So I would say it's also about the availability of talents, and to do that, it's about what governments do to attract those talents, what companies do to attract those talents, and it all starts also with having entrepreneurs opening up their companies there. So yeah.
So you say first institution, government, and second a good competence and people supporting the innovation, maybe because of government again, and also companies. But again, if you can be open and courage, what do you think about Milano, Italy, Rome? Do you think that we are in the right journey, or maybe we can do something better? One thing. Your experience?
I would say it's the start of the story, right? Like we can hear of very successful startups coming from Italy. Money Farm is like actually one of the major example. Other ones, so I would just say it's the start of the journey.
We have to go on.
Yeah, exactly. It's about keeping up and creating the momentum. And I mean, we will discuss that in the Oxford debate later, but it's also about the openness of the banks to collaborate with fintechs, because then fintechs have also the capital to be able to grow their offering. And so it's really about the ecosystem putting itself in place. So I would just say it's really just the early stage, but you have good products.
We can be optimistic.
Definitely.
Good.
And you have good, like,
and
you have
FinTech Week is something that we are doing all together.
Yeah, and like in terms of banking, even like you have very strong propositions like incumbents, but as well as online banks that you wouldn't qualify as fintech, but a generation in between that have attracted quite a lot of consumers. So I think there is a true willingness to get to there.
Diana, you are one of the biggest fintech influencers, and in my experience, it's not easy to convince top managers, CEO, especially in the incumbents, but also in other companies, to innovate with decision, with determination. What's your strategy to convince top management in funding a new project, a new service with determination?
Yes, so...
It's not an easy question.
I mean, influencing top management is never perhaps easy depending on what you want to do, but I joined HSBC less than a year ago, and so I think by nature, the fact that they did hire me coming from the fintech space already positioned me to succeed in that role because I knew what I was coming into, and that's exactly why I was hired as well, was to create an innovation agenda.
So there was a strong strategy behind the hiring.
Yeah, so absolutely, top management were already on board with that and really open to hearing about the ecosystem and actually building on their successes that they were already having. HSBC 2 years ago were actually the first large bank to do a partnership with a fintech in the FCA sandbox in the UK. We're currently working on our second now. And that's momentum that they wanted to continue, which is why they decided to build out the team, which I'm now leading. And so it certainly is a priority and one that we see increasing in importance going forward.
Okay. So you confirm that you need a strong strategy for innovation, otherwise nothing can happen.
You definitely need buy-in from the top, and part of my team is also focused on encouraging the engagement throughout the entire organization and really embedding that into the mindset of everyone at the bank and making everyone also feel included as part of that innovation rather than having a separate team and a closed agenda to that. It's something that we need the entire business to participate in. So we're working on that.
Good. Paolo, Banca Sella is a very strong local institution, but we consider a pioneer in innovation. You were always focused in innovation. And my curiosity, why do you think the group, Banca Sella Group, is always so focused and so interested in innovating, even if it's a proud institution linked to the local territory, geography, with this open vision?
Well, I think the first motivation is that technology is at the basis of every development that we did in the past. And today I learned a very interesting thing. The Copernican leap rules. Exactly what we are trying to do. So if you think at what we learned or we heard from Marco Scappa, so we launched the FinTech District, and then we are inviting other institutions to participate. So one of our best products for the ecosystem. We launched HI. Who knows HI? Challenger Bank in Italy, okay? The first in Italy, more than 200,000 customers in Italy. If you think that Monzo and N26, they have 500,000 customers, so not so far. And we are inviting other banks to use Hype to provide services to their customers. So we have launched the open banking platform last year in order to open up our data, our application, so our IT bank, so to comply with PSD2, but really to use at our best services and to collaborate with fintechs. And we are inviting service providers, other banks to collaborate and to use this open banking platform in order to build more services. And finally, the last part of the stack, we have the only open core banking in Italy, so based on open architecture, not legacy, mainframe, and so on. And we are inviting other banks to build on top of this core banking a real modular, modern core banking in order to open data and application as well. So at the end, the four stacks of an open banking architecture, so from core banking, data application, API gateways, services and fintech are part of our open banking strategies. And the reason why is because we don't think we can compete.
This is the point.
We cannot compete with our size, with our resources in this kind of market. And I think that also big guys like Italian bigger banks can compete with the GAFA players. So we think that the banking industry, the banks have to collaborate in order to create the really open banking ecosystem. That's our strategy. We think that there are many areas that there we can really collaborate, and we are trying to create this kind of road for others. That's our strategy.
I think this is really important. It's not just a DNA motivation
Absolutely.
to innovate, but because there is a strategy to compete in the best way for the future, where everything will be shuffled.
Yeah, just to comment that, we shifted 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, we have a very long history of innovation in terms of digital product, no? So e-payments, e-commerce, the first to move to open banking system and so on. But at the end, we were just transforming products, so innovating products, incremental innovation. We are now trying to disrupt the system, the banking industry, together with other banks. That's our aim.
Right. We have we have 50 minutes, so we have time. Some questions from the
Dalla
audience.
regia they told me that we have a couple of questions. There is one that probably Paolo and Massimo could talk about, which is kind of a tricky. So they say the conservativeness of the Italian regulator is widely considered as the reason for Italy lagging in digital innovation. What do you think, and what can we do about it? First question.
It's not controversial.
No, it's not. It's an easy one. And then there is another one which is probably for kind of everybody. Diana, maybe to start with. Not that they want to. That's a suggestion. Amongst the various startup incumbents collaboration strategy, what do you think it works best? You know, between incumbents and startups, you buy, you collaborate, and as well. And I'm super interested personally in this one. Oh, they're just behind you. How incumbents can collaborate, and have we reached the maturity phase in incumbents collaborating? This being said, if you think that there are, part of the questions that we have prepared that are like matching with this one,
It's interesting. Especially the first, I don't know if the regulated will answer. I leave you open.
My view, my simple answer is we have the same regulator in Europe. And I live it every day. No, it's reality. For us in Germany, at least for big banks like ours, there is no difference anymore since years. So I think that hiding behind the regulator as an excuse for being lagging behind in innovation, I think it's just an excuse. Anyway, it doesn't solve the issue.
Can I say something? Because in my first life I was focused on capital market risk management, now innovating. There are different in the model application inside Europe, and there are also some programs to
differences are
converge. So they are converging. They are converging, maybe.
Yes.
And Paolo, do you want to answer too?
Just one thing. I think regulators are really a big excuse for banks. Really. We should move the first step. That's the point. If we move the first step, or if we really start collaborating, we can push regulators in changing the things that are really important. Not everything, because we are regulated, but they can change if we really push together. And so far, we don't have this kind of really energy, willingness to move the first step.
Because it's a sort of a discussion and also education, if we can say.
I think we are using the regulators to resist.
Okay, an open answer.
Well, I think that can be an interesting point then when you look at open banking, because here we have the situation where the regulators are actually creating the opportunity for innovation. And so that can be a good excuse for people within the banks that are pushing for that innovation to actually help that agenda. And that's certainly something that we're trying to use to its fullest as an opportunity for collaboration with fintechs, with other startups, as well as in general an ecosystem building once you're moving to an API-led organization, and what that can mean for those potential partnerships and the opportunities, whether they be with other banks, with other large tech companies, with fintechs, with startups. The opportunities are really endless because now we have a focus which is not on the siloed view of banking, which is forcing the banks to move away from being closed and kind of protective, and actually opening up with a focus around creating personalized and relevant customer experiences. So, for example, just a couple of things that we're doing, we're launching a new app called Connected Money, where you can not only see your accounts with HSBC, but you can also see your accounts with other financial services providers to help people to receive a holistic view of their finances, and then also with that data you can use other technologies like AI to provide much deeper insights into that customer's finances and their lifestyle overall, to help guide them through the journey of their lives, of which financial services tends to underpin. Another example is the pilot that we're doing currently in the FCA Sandbox with a fintech called Bud. And this is an app called Arthur, where it's a marketplace model that we're testing. So we're not only offering financial products from HSBC or from other brands like First Direct, but also from other financial services providers and fintechs on the market. So similar to Starling and some of the marketplace models we're seeing, and seeing how do customers react to that? What do they want? What do they find useful?
So, this is the answer to the second question. Incumbents collaborating with other incumbents, exchanging clients, maybe, and also analytics. So you think we are in the right direction?
I mean, all with customer consent, but really if the focus is to help your customer, then they have the choice, and it's on you as a bank or any institution to be able to provide the most useful benefits to those people so that they want to use you as their hub for their lives.
Changing a little bit the structure of the questions, because it's a very interesting discussion for me. And staying on this point, what are the main collaboration models that you see between incumbents or fintech? I mean, collaboration model means revenue sharing, cost sharing, risk sharing. If you can summarize, I don't know who wants to start.
Yeah, well, I can maybe tell a bit about what we do at Fidor, because it's kind of an example of what you can do really with fintech companies. And how actually incumbents can leverage external technology to actually go in the fintech play without having to redo everything. So a bit about the story of Fidor. So historically, what we thought is that we couldn't do everything by ourselves because we were a small startup. We were 10 people when we launched the bank. And what we did is that we used this marketplace system to integrate fintechs directly onto our platform. And the idea was to offer a one-stop shop solution to our client to be able to actually give them more choice while just focusing on what we do best. And with the time, basically, this marketplace, we are now providing in white label for the incumbents to be able to do that. So it would be a first step of collaboration, would be really to go into that marketplace model that we are seeing spreading in Europe. The benefits of it for the banks is really to leverage their customer base while creating new revenue opportunities, because of course you get revenues out of the fintech companies for sharing the clients. But there is a lot of benefits, as Diana was saying, for the clients to be able to actually have more choice than what your bank would be giving, and to be able to see everything at the same place. The second part of collaboration, or how we have leveraged our open banking infrastructure for new revenue opportunities, is that we have been basically creating a middleware that enables to launch new applications, and through that we are now helping tier 2 and tier 3 banks to launch new banking experience outside of what they do currently, meaning that they can target new customers
for specific services and products.
Exactly, more specific services targeted to maybe new markets that they didn't address in the past. So you can think of millennials, you can think of expats, you can think of anything really. And the benefits of it is that it can either plug to your existing core banking system or do it separately, which means that it's projects that can go very fast, basically, and it enables you to not go through like the whole internal process. I mean, some organization needs to go through the internal process, but it's a way to fast-track projects, to go on the market quite fast and to see how it works, basically. So it's how we have collaborated with large banks so far, really.
So the two experiences are, one is white labeling,
yeah.
And the second is open your platform to change the digital experience for tier 2, tier 3 banks.
Exactly.
And they keep their clients.
They keep their clients, absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
I can confirm from our side that we are interested in this kind of collaboration by adopting some white label product in white labeling and integrating on our platform where there is a complementary value. Okay. And because we would like, obviously, to maintain a direct relation with our customer.
Interesting. Okay, going, Matteo, you can jump in when you want with the audience questions. Massimo, Sam also explained his presentation that in the technology area we have a core system 30 years, architecture 20 years, box 10 years. And we know that in a large bank like yours, you have a lot of mainframe. And they still work, luckily. So if you can answer, what's the future and how you can accelerate the combination of digital processes who are open, who are faster, who can connect with the evolution or the change in mainframe and aged IT systems?
Okay, we have to consider that the importance, in my view, is to use the technology for what is best for. Clearly, if I had to build a completely greenfield bank, I would build in a different way, but this is not our case.
So you say that starting from scratch is better?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's better. It's that if I have to, it's easier. But since I cannot, because it will take probably more than my life to do it, it's simply something that is clearly an advantage from somebody building something new from scratch. On the other side, this guy has also to gain the customer we have. So it's a trade-off that I believe is one of the reasons of the collaboration with him. So what we are doing, we are trying to have a better modularization of our systems in order to decouple pieces which are operate a real value, differentiating value for our customer, including the API layer, the ability to integrate external services, the ability to show to manage a customer in the kind of a channel in an integrated way, and not just silos like in the past, where we had a mobile banking and internet banking, which devices, something that is losing. And while maintaining our core system where they provide what they do. They are safe from a security point of view, something that we didn't cover, but is an underlying issue that is behind most of our thought, and that are quite efficient in managing high volumes in an efficient way and a reliable way. So that's in a few words what we are trying to do with our investment plan of renewal and modernization of the systems. I think the execution here is not particularly original idea. I think that David is in the details and the ability to execute.
In any case, is fundamental to go on with the digital transformation in fintech. Otherwise,
sure.
You can't
Yeah,
do
but
this.
in order to integrate fintech, we need to be able to integrate them. That's my point. No? So that's on our side. We need to, and what we are doing, invest on the ability to aggregate and integrate new technologies on the front. Something anyway is needed for PSD2 that we don't, for example, but we don't see as a regulatory constraint, but more as an opportunity to do something in a more ordered way. Okay.
Clear. Bye.
There is maybe an interesting question over there highlighted, not because for once I got an acronym, which is GAFA. And it's about, there was an article in Wall Street Journal recently saying, hey, why is Facebook, Google, Amazon and Apple are not becoming a bank, right? And the answer in that short article was because all banks are moving to the cloud, so these guys would be competing, right, with the banks. That is one of the reasons. The question that has been asked is banks were designed to be predictable, consistent and repetitive. Is it realistic to expect them to change, or does the future belong to the Facebook, Google, Amazon and Apple? So mix the two. I mean, a consideration of whether or not you agree on the cloud strategy as a reason not to become a bank, as well as what chances these big tech giants have to truly compete with banks. But you, Paolo, decide who will start answering.
Who is that? Paolo. Also because, Paolo, I wanted to ask you, I'm hearing, I'm understanding that there is a lot of stuff moving. Sincerely, I was a little bit more prudent in this, so I'm very happy. So maybe in the answer from the question, you can also integrate what do you see really in the concrete connection. If you have a lot, I don't know, 50 fintechs asking to your door, can we be in your platform? Or there is no one outside the door, so it's just marketing. Sorry for maybe for being honest.
Well, the answer, there is no answer for the question, of course. There are some opinions. My opinion is that the big giants will move to the banking space for sure, but in a modular way. For example, Tencent, of course, acquired or invested in N26. Alibaba, Alipay, and so on, they are investing in entering in the merchant space that for us is very, very important, and so on. So my view is that the banking, not the banks, the banking will become modular and data-driven. That's it. And the banking will be executed by big giants, banks, fintechs, and so on. A really Copernican revolution in that way. From our perspective, we need to become agile. We need to become agile in order to integrate this kind of services. And so, coming to your second part of the question, these 50 fintech are working at fintech district just for community services, of course. But started, I think, 2 years ago, probably 20 of these 50 fintech already are working with us because we opened up our system, our core banking, in terms of API 2 years ago, not today. So, for example, if you are lending, a peer-to-peer lending company, and you need to move money between accounts, you do it through API, not through web portal. And they use our system to move money between accounts, for example. If you are an equity crowdfunding and you are to, again, collect money, you need API to manage this kind of relationship between accounts. So we provide a set of APIs to many fintechs in order to manage their business, okay? And again, coming to Copernican rules, we are offering this kind of layer to other banks because we really believe that only if we have many banks managing this kind of openness, we can
So do you
create
have banks
the ecosystem.
asking for something now?
Sorry?
Do you have banks asking?
Yes,
to
we are discussing
connect?
with several banks. Of
Okay.
course, the most innovative that have the same size of us, because the big bank, Unicredit, Terza, of course, they have their strategy. They already have this kind of development within the bank. But in terms of collaboration between banks, we have 4 or 5 banks in Italy that are discussing about that. Not easy, because there
I
are
can
some
imagine.
mindset, some regulation, some governance issue, how to manage the customer, how to manage. But again, we want to start from very concrete experiment or project or business. For example, we are working with a bank. They have a very good marketplace for small business. We are probably the best wallet in Italy that is Hive. We are connecting Hive with the marketplace to manage a wallet for small business. So 2 banks, 2 services integrated through APIs. So that's
Clear.
our vision.
Diana, do you want to add something on this point?
Yeah, I would say that I completely agree, and that it's really about the modularity and where you can fit in and what you have to offer, the flexibility to work in that. I think that there's also an element of trust. So 2 years ago, we published a report on trust in technology, and where the findings were that 84% of customers would actually be willing to give more data to their banks if it meant a more personalized and relevant experience for them. But the numbers were definitely not as high with the large tech companies. So I think there's a balance there in how you position yourselves as a bank around that customer trust, to be able to ensure that you keep that positioning while still being able to use the data in a way that customers feel comfortable with and that provides benefit to them, but in the way where you have the transparency around how that's being used. That doesn't, of course, stop you from also collaborating with those companies, but again, at customer consent and in the sort of an agile, modular way in where that fits with their model and yours, and you can find that compatibility. Again, coming particularly when you're looking at an API-first strategy.
Okay. Sophia, do you want to add?
Yeah, I would just add a last point, like beyond modularity, which I fully agree on, I think it's also about the use case. Because modularity implicates that maybe the banks, like as it will be in the future, are not the banks that we see right now exactly plumbing. So it could be like Amazon. We know Amazon is going into banking. It could one of the main use case would be, for example, one of the like the SMEs sending P2P payments very fast. And I think it's in that kind of places that we will find the GAFAs in use cases that really add value to their customers and not banking for the sake of it, because that's, as Paolo has said, they can do it through investments.
Yeah. I don't see the time, but maybe we have 5 minutes. Do we have another question from the audience? Otherwise, I close with my question to all of these good guests.
So there is one that I would like to highlight because it's not an anonymous one. So WeChat and Alibaba are close to dominating the Chinese banking. They are also investing in the West. How long before European banks will have to compete with them?
With Chinese bank? When,
How long?
How long?
Are we being invaded?
What do you think, Massimo?
I think, anyway.
So stay close on the microphone.
Okay,
Because
honestly, I don't think, I don't see them as an immediate threat now. I think they will have to adapt to our regulation as well. So I think that they will become a player inside our landscape, but I don't, in the moment, would be more worried about fintech, big tech players that are trying to invent some new services. Consider also that Chinese banks have a large market by themselves.
Maybe the question was more related to the fact, even if it's my interpretation, I live in Lisbon, for example, and Chinese are actually buying most of the strategic infrastructures of the country. And now they are bidding for the switch. And
exactly, the wine in Bordeaux.
Exactly. So that might be, and because numbers, you know, for like Portuguese numbers, typically for Chinese doesn't actually mean much in terms of. So I think that was more like out of fear a question, that out of you know, when is that?
No, just one thing. I think there is a clear strategy. They are, through the operators like Alibaba or Tencent, they are entering in a merchant market. So imagine that they will get a very big percentage of merchant market. Then they will enter in the lending market in Europe. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
Move to Hong Kong head office and the Chinese bank is here.
It's also anyway a bridge, a market for a European company to sell in China. So it's to falls also in our interest to create this bridge for our customers.
Do we have? It's okay. So I think that we are on time. I thank all of you for interesting discussion. And now we have the coffee break. Okay. Thank you very much.